In this video, I'm going to show you what I think are the very best settings for PC players in Apex Legends. So ever since about August when I started playing mouse and keyboard Apex Legends, I've been slowly critiquing a lot of these settings. And just keep this in mind, this is all just my personal opinion, but over the last quite a few months now, I think I have really dialed in what I think are the best settings for Apex Legends PC players. I mean, it might totally differentiate my settings from your best settings because of like your PC, you know, like your hand size, whatnot. But yeah, so I'm gonna start off with video settings because I think this is a really easy way to improve your game overall. So if you have more powerful PC, you can turn up a lot of the graphics settings, but most of us, we don't have $2,000 PCs. And yeah, so I'm gonna go through these things. Go full screen, play 16:9, 1920 by 1080. I think these settings will stay the same for most people. Brightness, I have this, I don't know, decently high. Like I think I have brightness turned up quite a bit on my monitor, so in game, like, there can't be anybody really hiding in shadows. Most of my settings are just based to get as much FPS as possible. My field of view is actually at 110. A lot of pro players crank this setting all the way up to 110. I mean, some people do prefer to have theirs around 90, and that's perfectly fine, but for a while, when I first started playing mouse and keyboard Apex Legends, I had it at 110, and then I kind of turned it down to 90 to test it, and my gameplay like really dropped off. I really believe that 110 is like the best for me, and I think 90 might be the best for you, but I think you should try 110 if you haven't tried it yet. Sprint view shake, change it to minimal. You don't need your screen to shake for no reason. VSync, I have that turned off. Most people believe VSync is a bunch of garbage, and at least for my setup, I have a G-Sync monitor, so I don't really need VSync. I have this turned off. Adaptive resolution, FPS target, anti-aliasing. You can turn anti-aliasing off to help you get a couple more frames. It'll reduce GPU load, but I mean, this is the one setting that'll really help your game look a lot better for a small amount of GPU load, so I highly recommend you to have anti-aliasing turned on. Texture streaming budget. This is a huge setting, and I think it's pretty controversial. The further you have it turned to the left, the more it will just focus on getting as many frames as possible, and the more you have it turned to the right, the more it will focus on making the game look better. And even though it says it's not recommended for my PC up here, turning it all the way to none really helps out like my frames a lot, and it does bump down like the quality of my game a little bit, but I really think it helps a lot more to have this turned to none, at least for my PC. You can certainly try out whatever you want for yourself. Texture filtering by linear, you can have it turned to 2x, but I prefer to have more frames per second. Basically have all these things disabled. It come like I said, I have more competitive settings. Everything's based for higher frames, so you can just kind of pause the video and look at this. I do have impact marks. I think this helps out my game a little bit. My CPU doesn't actually have a lot of load when I play, so if your CPU doesn't have a lot of load, you can turn things like this up to high, and it probably won't affect your frames at all. Let's go to gameplay now. So in my gameplay settings, these first two things here, like your interact prompt style, this is like if you see a gun on the floor or some ammo, it'll you can either have it say like the full names and everything out, or you can have it be compact. I prefer to have compact because I've played Apex Legends quite a bit now, and yeah, I don't really need to see everything. Same thing with button hints. I've played mouse and keyboard quite a bit. I don't need button hints on my screen anymore. It helps my videos look a little bit better when I do use my own gameplay to not have the keys all over the screen. Crosshair damage feedback, I strongly recommend you to have this all the way to the right side with X with shield icon, so you can see, like, I believe this is the one, yeah, this is the one where you can see hit markers, and also when you shoot the people, you can see if they have a shield, what color shield they have. That's super useful. I don't know why you'd have it on the left side. I have seen people have it to that before, but I wouldn't recommend it. Damage numbers, have it to stacking, so it basically it'll add up all of your numbers. So if you, for example, if you have the flat line, you get 5 hits, it'll add up those 5 hits worth of damage. I think that's pretty useful. So you can, I don't know, it makes it easier to call out when people are low, and it helps you get a better idea at when people are actually lower in health, at least in my opinion. Yeah, I have all these things turned on right here. I don't know if those are super important. Minimap rotation on, auto sprint off, double tap sprint off, incoming damage feedback 3D. Well, this is a really useful one right here. So if you're going into a box trying to shield swap while you're getting shot at, which happens quite a bit, at least for me, if you get shot while you're trying to shield swap, it'll take you out of it. And they added this in a couple updates back. This isn't an original setting in Apex Legends, and it's really nice that they added this. I highly recommend you to turn this to off unless you're a super beginner player. That's the only reason you'd really have that turned on, at least in my opinion. Streamer mode off, usage sharing disabled, and yeah, this stuff isn't very important, but you can look at that quickly. So mouse and keyboard settings, my mouse sensitivity, it's on 800 DPI, so if I have this turned to 1.3, I believe that's decently low sensitivity, but I have a lot of room on my desk to actually move my mouse, so I would recommend to you to have a lower sensitivity if you have the desk space for it. ADS mouse sensitivity, this is a really nice setting. So 1.3 mouse sensitivity with the 800 DPI, so I still have it's still a decently medium-ish sensitivity, but when I'm aiming down, that's a little bit too high, so I can turn down the ADS mouse sensitivity multiplier, so when I'm aiming down, it makes my movements just a little bit more fine, and I find that super useful. Mouse acceleration, definitely turn that off. No reason to have it on. Mouse invert off, lighting effects, depends on you. So keybinds, I'm pretty sure you guys are interested to see this. Mine are a little bit different versus the average player. Yeah, so my pinky's a little bit higher on the left side of my keyboard. So most people would have sprint to shift or caps lock, but I actually have it all the way up at tab. Then I have my jump at space. I don't use M ever. Crouch hold, I have this at caps. I do find this tab sprint and caps crouch to be a pretty good combo. I guess that's just what feels best for me on my keyboard. I can't really do anything else other than that. My tactical and ultimate ability actually have these binded to my mouse buttons, and I find that super useful because I think when I click my mouse buttons, it kind of throws off my aim a little bit, and I don't really want my aim being thrown off, and I'm not really aiming when I'm using my abilities, so I highly recommend if you have mouse buttons to bind them to your mouse buttons. Interact pickup, I think this should be on the easiest button to click for you other than your movement buttons. Most people have this at E or some. I'd say most people have this at E, but I find F easier to click, so I binded interact pickup to F. Alternate X. Inventory, I have binded at E. Map C, attack, toggle fire mode. I don't really use this button a lot, so I kind of have it thrown to the side at G. Melee, I don't really use that a lot, but I can also make V work on my keyboard. It's kind of out of the way, but I don't really use it a lot. Cycle weapon, if you have a mouse that works really well with this, I know some people have problems with cycling weapons with the scroll wheel, but personally with my mouse, it works super well to have my scroll wheel binded to cycle weapon. And I mean, in Apex Legends, you only can have a max of 2 different weapons, so I don't really find a huge issue with ever binding your scroll wheel to swap weapon. A lot of people have this binded to jump, but I don't really do that. But if you don't have your scroll wheel binded to anything like this, I highly recommend you to try out your cycle weapon on scroll wheel. The different equip weapon 1, equip weapon 2, I don't really use these two things, but I have them on 1 and 2 anyways. That's mostly just for if I'm looting and I need to change my weapons while I'm looting. I mostly use scroll wheel to change my weapons. Holster, I find 4 a really easy key to click, versus key 3. I always click 4, and I find it really easy to click that. I mean, just based off where my hand is positioned on my keyboard. Equip grenade, I have this on left shift. Left shift is a really easy button to click because of how tab is sprint and caps is slide. So I find this a really good setup with the grenades. You selected health item. I usually hold this down and then select my heal. Some of my subscribers out there will know that sometimes I go in my inventory to heal and I'm trying to get away from that habit, and I think I've almost broke it. But yeah, I find T really good command for using heal items. Character utility action, I don't really ever use this key, I just have it at Y. Ping, I just have this as click the scroll wheel. Enemy here, ping enemy here, I use this key a lot. And Q is one of the easier keys to click on a keyboard. Some people would strongly recommend to have Q as like a more commonly used key. But yeah, when people are up in my face, I can still ping to my teammates. I can sit there and spam them while I'm shooting at them. Or just, you know, sometimes you really need to ping an enemy quickly and then get into a gunfight. And I think if you have it to double tapping your scroll wheel, that can take a little bit too long and it can kind of mess with things, especially if you have swap weapon binded to scroll wheel. Yeah, that's about it for that. What do we have left? We have audio. Yeah, open mic, depends on your setup. Master volume, I have this at 100. So what is important over here? Music volume, first of all, I turned that off. That was just annoying, and I highly recommend you to turn some of this stuff off here. Yeah, dialogue volume, that's pretty useful if your teammates are getting shot at. If you're playing with randoms and they don't call stuff out, you know, it's always useful. But yeah, that will be about it, I believe. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. I do strongly believe, at least with my setup, these are some pretty decent settings, and the video settings might be a little bit controversial, like especially with this texture streaming budget. But I mean, I have an $800 PC, and you know, some of the top streamers, you know, have $2,000 PCs. I'm recording while playing, and I'm still getting 144 frames. And I can show you guys an example of what my gameplay actually looks like. Like, you can see, and you've seen it in some of my videos in the past, like my overall quality on my videos, the gameplay. I mean, it's not really too bad. I mean, I think it looks pretty good. And yeah, I really hope you found this useful, and that will be about it for me. Peace out. No! No! Oh my god. Oh, GG.